Australia Zoo shrine grows on a day that Steve Irwin's dad spoke lovingly about his son.
I'll remember Steve as my best mate ever.
The family says no to a state funeral. Steve would not have wanted it.
He's just an ordinary bloke. And he wants to be remembered as an ordinary bloke.
National 9 News with Bruce Page and Heather Ford.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, it is clear that Steve Irwin got his courage from his dad because today a grieving Bob Irwin took the brave step of fronting the public for the first time to talk about his son's legacy. This is the scene outside Australia Zoo tonight, still the focus of the outpouring of emotion. The family has asked for their privacy to be respected for the children's sake. But earlier today, Bob reminisced about the times he and Steve went camping, their combined love of nature, and how they were the best of mates. He also said the offer of a state funeral will be refused, saying Steve wouldn't have wanted it because he was just an ordinary bloke.
It was, the elder Mr Irwin said, his first major media conference, and by crikey, it was a big one.
I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to get through this.
While Steve Irwin's thousands of adoring fans clearly are grieving, this man is at the raw, pointy end of all that pain.
It's tough. Steve and I weren't like father and son. We never were. We were good mates. I'll remember Steve as my best mate ever.
The manner of Steve's death, so unexpected and at the hands of nature, was in a way, Bob Irwin said, only natural.
Steve knew the risks involved with the type of work he was doing, and he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He certainly did die doing something he loved doing. That's true, and that's a lot better than getting hit by a bus.
The father spoke passionately of his desire to help, protect and shield Terry and the children, Bindi and Bob.
Terry's holding up very well, considering. She's extremely concerned for her children.
As for the extraordinary outpouring of public emotion and affection for his son here and across the world, his simple words said so much.
I'd like to thank all the people for the wonderful tributes that have come in.
It shouldn't have come as a surprise, but when Bob Irwin was asked about holding a state funeral for his son, he didn't mess about. He knew just what Steve would have said.
The state funeral would be refused.
And the family, he vowed, will honour that no fuss, no frills philosophy.
Because he's an ordinary guy. He's just an ordinary bloke. And he wants to be remembered as an ordinary bloke.
He reminisced, recalling how a father and son forged a special bond out in the bush, a relationship that transcended a common interest in things that bite.
And that's when the mateship started, right back when he was 6, 7, 8 years old. We used to go out in the bush and not do anything in particular, just go out in the bush. And it was something I'll never forget.
But his fondest and most cherished memory now will be a recent crocodile research expedition to Cape York with all the Irwins together.
And I spent 3 or 4 weeks with Steve and Terry and the children. And Steve was probably the best I'd seen him for many years.
To the world, Steve Irwin was the crocodile hunter, larger than life, a bit of a larrikin. But to Bob, he was simply, wonderfully, irreplaceably his son.
I'm a lucky, lucky guy that I've had the opportunity to have a son like Steve.
And at the end, fittingly, just as there was so often for Steve, there was applause for a brave man dealt a bitter blow. Phil Wilmington, National 9 News.
Steve Irwin came home for the final time last night, his body brought back to the Sunshine Coast. There's one small comfort for his grief-stricken family, the number of fans continuing their vigil outside his Australia Zoo.
It was the saddest of homecomings. Steve Irwin's body delivered to his family on the Sunshine Coast.
The fact that we finally got him home and the family saw the casket last night, it was like a a full stop.
With the unlikelihood of a state funeral, the family is now making final arrangements. Just as tributes continue from around the world, so do those from many he never met but touched so deeply. Fans, young and old, maintained their vigil outside Australia Zoo into last night.
Whoa, the turtle!
They were back this morning. The zoo is surrounded by flowers as the gratitude and tears keep coming.
I felt as if I knew him, but I hadn't. But I've enjoyed every time I've come here.
Mainly for the kids. Didn't realise how much he meant to them, really.
It's very, very hard to believe. Oh, but I really feel for Terry and Bindi and Bob.
And that, to many, is the real tragedy. Something Steve Irwin himself talked about in an interview 4 years ago when asked about his fear of dying.
The only thing I am a little concerned about is that Bindi,
your daughter,
yeah, she won't have a daddy, and that kind of worries me a little. Yeah.
He also spoke of how hard he took the loss of his own mother in an accident. He was 39 at the time. Bindi is just 8. Matt Dunstone, National 9 News.
Well, nowhere in the world was Steve Irwin more popular than in the United States, where some of television's top stars have offered glowing tributes. On American television today, the crocodile hunter dominated 2 of the most popular talk shows.
If there was ever any doubt about Steve Irwin's extraordinary popularity in the United States, it was dispelled forever, with CNN devoting an entire hour of The Larry King Show to the man and his memory.
John Stanton was Steve Irwin's producer, manager, and best friend.
The first of a string of guests paying tribute to Irwin, a deeply emotional Stanton recalled the terrible moments as rescuers tried to revive the crocodile hunter.
It was a pretty desperate time and a horrible event to do and live through.
No sign of consciousness at all, John?
Larry, in my heart, I think he was dead when he was in the rubber ducky. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I don't think he was alive.
Let's go to Davenport, Iowa, check in with Scott Jones. He owes his life to Steve Irwin.
Marooned for 27 hours on remote rocks off the Mexican coast, a woman companion had already drowned. Scott Jones was saved because Steve Irwin was making a documentary nearby, abandoning that to respond to a call to help search for the American diver.
Well, I felt like I lost another friend. He was like my wife and I's hero. And I've learned today, or from the past 48 hours, he was a lot of people's heroes.
On another US TV network,
I actually felt physical pain when I heard what had happened.
this host spoke of how she broke the news to her young son.
He cried and then told me he's in heaven. He said, I'm trying to picture it, Mom, but I can't picture him dying because he's like more than Superman.
Jay Leno, America's top-rating talk show host, recalled his favorite guest.
Crikey, Jay! I mean, he was always up. He was probably the greatest ambassador Australia ever had.
With some memorable appearances.
They're actually the largest venomous crikey. I mean, this strike range here.
And then there was the alligator, and a very jumpy host.
She's dead set in the ambush position, mate. She wouldn't eat this, would she? Try.
Peter Harvey, National 9 News.
Among the very few untouched by Steve Irwin's death is controversial Australian feminist Germaine Greer. In a British newspaper, she's accused Irwin of deluding himself, saying the animal world has finally taken its revenge. A theme she continues on tonight's A Current Affair.
As far as I can see, quite a few Australians have been embarrassed by Steve Irwin. Lots. Millions, possibly.
I think Germaine Greer should just stick a sock in it. I mean, you've got a grieving mother, you've got a couple of grieving young kids and a grieving nation.
A view shared by many angry readers who've emailed the newspaper's website.